They decided who he was before he ever spoke. By the color of his skin, by the worn jacket on his back, by the way security watched him instead of welcoming him. No one in that grand hall imagined that before the night was over, the same people who laughed at him would be standing on their feet, silent, shaken, when his name was finally called. The invitation said Blackstone Philanthropy Annual Gala. Gold letters. Heavy cardstock. A night meant for the city's most powerful donors, executives, and social elites. Elias Carter stood outside the glass doors for a moment longer than necessary, watching reflections of people who had never once worried about whether they belonged. Men in tailored tuxedos, women in designer gowns. Laughter floated through the air like it owned the place. He adjusted the sleeves of his old but clean blazer. It didn't fit the room. He knew that. Still, he stepped inside. The security guard stopped him instantly. "Sir, service entrance is on the other side." Elias smiled politely. "I'm attending the gala." The guard looked him up and down, eyes lingering just a little too long. "Do you have proof?" Elias handed over the invitation. The guard frowned, checked the list twice, then reluctantly waved him in. Not an apology, just suspicion left hanging in the air. Inside, conversations slowed as Elias passed. Some people stared openly. Others whispered behind champagne glasses. Who invited him? Probably someone's driver. Is this a diversity thing? Elias heard it all. He always did. Near the bar, a tall man in a gray tuxedo laughed loudly with a group of donors. "That's what happens when you let anyone in," he said, nodding toward Elias without lowering his voice. The group chuckled. Elias didn't react. He ordered water instead of wine and stood near the edge of the hall, watching the stage where a banner read, "Honoring those who shape tomorrow." A woman in a red gown approached him, irritation clear on her face. "Excuse me," she said sharply, "are you lost?" "No," Elias replied calmly. She crossed her arms. "This is a private event." "I know." Her smile was tight, forced. "Then who are you here with?" Elias met her eyes. "Myself." She scoffed. "Right." She walked away, muttering something about security being useless. Elias let out a slow breath. Moments like these reminded him why he usually avoided places like this. Not because he didn't belong, but because they refused to believe he could. A waiter passed by, tray trembling slightly. "You okay, sir?" The young man whispered. Elias nodded. "I'm fine." The waiter leaned closer. "Ignore them. They judge before they know." Elias gave a small smile. "I'm used to it." Across the room, the board members of Blackstone Philanthropy gathered near the front. Cameras flashed. Applause erupted as Marcus Hale, the organization's public face, took the microphone. "Tonight," Marcus announced, "we celebrate vision, generosity, and leadership." Cheers filled the hall. "We also welcome our newest partners and donors, people who believe in changing lives." More applause. Elias watched quietly. Marcus continued speaking about schools, hospitals, scholarships. Big words, big promises. Elias had heard similar speeches before. What mattered wasn't the words, it was the follow-through. As the program paused for dinner, Elias took a seat at an empty table near the back. No one joined him. At the table beside him, two women whispered openly. "He doesn't even have a table assignment." Probably snuck in. These events aren't what they used to be. Elias stared at his plate, untouched. Then a familiar voice echoed behind him. "Elias?" He looked up. A man in an expensive suit stood there, eyes wide with surprise, then respect. "Mr. Carter, I didn't expect to see you here." People nearby turned to listen. Elias stood. "Good evening." The man extended his hand quickly. "Thank you for coming." Elias shook it. Someone whispered, "Who is that?" Another replied, "No idea." The man leaned closer. "They're about to start the recognition segment. I hope you'll stay." "I plan to," Elias said. As the man walked away, the whispers grew louder. Why was he thanking him? Did you see that? Maybe he knows someone important. Dinner ended. Lights dimmed. Marcus returned to the stage, smiling. "Our next recognition," he said, "is for a contributor whose impact is mostly invisible, but absolutely foundational to everything we do." Elias felt the familiar tightening in his chest. "Not nerves, memory," Marcus continued. "This person doesn't seek attention. In fact, many of you may not even recognize him tonight." A few people laughed. Elias remained still. But without his work, this organization wouldn't exist in its current form. Silence began to spread. Marcus looked down at his card. "Please welcome Elias Carter. For a second, nothing happened. Then heads turned. Eyes widened. Whispers stopped. Elias stood slowly. The same people who had mocked him moments earlier stared in disbelief as applause, hesitant at first, then stronger, filled the hall. Elias walked toward the stage, every step heavy with years of being underestimated. Marcus stepped down to meet him, lowering his voice. "They judged you the moment you walked in," Marcus said quietly. Elias nodded. "They usually do." Marcus looked out at the crowd. "But tonight, they're about to learn." Elias took the microphone. The room fell completely silent. And that was the moment. The exact moment. When everything began to change, Elias stood at the microphone, the soft hum of the hall pressing against his ears. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on him now, the same eyes that had looked through him, past him or down on him just an hour earlier. He didn't rush to speak. Silence, he had learned, was powerful. "I can see the confusion," Elias finally said, his voice calm but steady. "Some of you are wondering why my name was just called. Others are wondering how I even got into this room." A nervous ripple moved through the crowd. "I'm not offended," he continued. "I've spent most of my life in rooms where I wasn't expected to belong." Marcus watched from the side of the stage, expression serious now, respectful. Elias looked across the audience. "I grew up 10 blocks from here. Same city, very different world. My mother cleaned offices at night. My father worked construction until his body gave out before 40. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. I learned early that intelligence doesn't come with a dress code," Elias said. "And potential doesn't announce itself with confidence." He paused, letting that sink in. Years ago, when Blackstone Philanthropy was just an idea, not a brand, Marcus Hale walked into a failing tech startup looking for funding software for nonprofit logistics. Everyone else turned him away. Marcus lowered his gaze. "I didn't," Elias said. "Not because I was generous, but because I understood systems. And I understood people who were ignored." A murmur spread through the hall. "I built the data infrastructure that tracks your donations," Elias continued. "The systems that decide where money goes, which schools get rebuilt, which hospitals get equipment." People leaned forward now. "I never put my face on it. Never put my name on banners. Because I believed the work mattered more than recognition." He looked directly at the man in the gray tuxedo, the one who had laughed earlier. "But tonight," Elias said quietly, "I was reminded why silence can sometimes protect prejudice." The man stiffened. Elias took a breath. "When I walked in here, I was questioned, redirected, judged, not because of my behavior, but because of my appearance." The woman in the red gown stared at the floor. "I don't say this to shame anyone," Elias added. "I say it because this room is full of people who claim to change lives, yet still decide worth in seconds." The hall was utterly still. Marcus stepped closer. "Elias," he said into his mic, "would you tell them?" Elias nodded. 3 months ago," he said, "Blackstone faced a choice. Expand internationally or collapse under its own weight." Gasps. "Personally invested the capital that saved it," Elias continued. "Not as a donor. As the majority stakeholder." The shock was visible now, open, unhidden. "I am not here as a guest," Elias said. "I am here as the owner." The word hit like thunder. Faces drained of color. The man in the gray tuxedo swallowed hard. Someone dropped a glass. Elias stepped away from the microphone. "I don't need applause," he said. "I need accountability." Marcus took the mic again, voice firm. "Effective immediately, Blackstone's board will undergo structural reform. Diversity training isn't optional. Bias audits won't be symbolic." He turned toward Elias. "This organization exists because of him, and it will grow because of his vision." Applause erupted, loud, standing, desperate. Elias didn't bow. He didn't smile. He walked off the stage. As people stood, many avoided his eyes. Others tried to catch his attention, suddenly eager to be seen with him. The woman in the red gown rushed toward him. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry if I was rude earlier." Elias met her gaze. "You weren't rude," he said calmly. "You were honest." "That's more useful." She had no response. The man in the gray tuxedo approached next, voice tight. "I owe you an apology." Elias nodded once. "You owe yourself reflection." Security, the same guard from earlier, stood rigid near the door. As Elias passed, the man straightened sharply. "Sir," the guard said, voice respectful now. "Thank you for coming." Elias stopped, looked at him. "Next time," Elias said quietly. "Don't wait for a title." The guard's face flushed. "Yes, sir." Outside, the night air felt lighter. Marcus joined him on the steps. "You could have destroyed them in there," Marcus said. Elias exhaled. "Destruction teaches fear. Truth teaches change." Marcus smiled faintly. "You're still the same man." "No," Elias replied. "I'm just no longer invisible." Behind them, the gala continued, but it was different now. Conversations had shifted. Masks had fallen, and somewhere inside that grand hall, people were learning a lesson no amount of money could buy. That dignity doesn't come from status. That power doesn't need permission. And that the man they judged at the door was the very one holding the keys.